you need not see, it's impossible to see. So the first slide I've shown here, because today is the foundation day of IGNOU. It's named after Srimati Indira Gandhi. She is also the one who first developed or promoted the concept of socially sustainable development. Before her address to the UN Conference on Human Environment in Stockholm, sustainability was usually discussed in terms of economic sustainability, for example, companies, their balance sheet, how much their income they get and so on, and also in terms of environmental sustainability. But Indira Gandhi used these words which are well known. How can we speak to those who live in villages and in slums about keeping the oceans, the rivers and the air clean when their own lives are contaminated at the source, when their own lives are contaminated at the source? The environment cannot be improved in conditions of poverty, nor can poverty be eradicated without the use of science and technology. That's also very important. There she shared the view of her own father, Jawaharlal Nehru, who always used to say, the future belongs to science and to those who make friendship with science. Just now we heard the Vice-Chancellor indicating how this university is a leader in various kinds of technology application. This is the first lecture in the course. I wanted to give an introduction to the question of sustainability in the case of food security. Because the last big famine we had in the subcontinent, India, Bangladesh, at that time it was not a Bangladesh, it was undivided Bengal, was the Great Bengal Famine of 1942-43, when several million children, women and men died. And the Roman philosopher Seneca said long ago, a hungry person listens neither to reason nor religion, nor is bent by any prayer. This is why in some parts of our country, what you call the Naxalite movement and so on, are all associated also with extensive occurrence of unemployment and various kinds of deprivation. Jawaharlal Nehru, the first Prime Minister, when he took over the Prime Ministership of independent India, he said everything else can wait but not agriculture. The reason again, the backdrop of the Bengal famine was very much in his mind. Well, I am cutting a long story short. From the time we had the Bengal famine to the time Indira Gandhi announced in 1968 the wheat revolution. She released a special stamp. Those of you who cannot see the slides, maybe the organizers later on can give you a copy of the slides so that you can get an idea. The wheat revolution stamp shows how there was a quantum jump in wheat production. It was not a small incremental 3%, 4%. It was a doubling of wheat production, and that is why it was called a wheat revolution. And the picture of the stamp shows the library building of the Indian Agricultural Research Institute here in New Delhi in order to symbolize the role of science. Green Revolution really represents the synergy between technology and public policy. Technology alone cannot make much of an impact unless there is a public policy. For example, today we are very proud of our Indian Space Research Organization, Chandrayaan. Oh, it has come on the main. Well, I'm glad it has come in the main screen. Chandrayaan, normally what happens is the political decision is that our ISRO should develop technology for landing on the moon and impact a probe. And rest of it science does. That's what Kennedy did in the United States. In the early 60s, he said before the end of the 60s, an American should land on the moon. That was all the political decision. But then the technical people converted the political decision in reality. After all, Armstrong landed in moon in 1968. 2 years, of course, Kennedy didn't live to see what has happened. This is what is called a mission mode, and the technology and public policy. Now, the origin of this wheat revolution can be traced to a hybrid made in the Norin experiment station in Japan. It was an interesting cross made by Dr. Gonzalo Inuzuka in 1935, when he obtained semi-dwarf varieties of wheat which had dwarf height but long panicle. The panicle was long. I am mentioning it because we had an earlier wheat called the Triticum spherococcum, called the Mohenjo-daro wheat, because it was held, the kernels were found in Mohenjo-daro excavation. But there, the plant was small, the head was also small. Here, for the first time, a small plant but long panicles, and this was used in the United States by Orville Vogel in Washington State to develop a variety called Gaines. The same genes were used in Mexico by the famous Dr. Norman Borlaug, who later on got the Nobel Peace Prize. The difference between Vogel and Borlaug was Vogel's varieties were all what we call winter wheat. They require long days and mild temperature. Ours are Rabi. Now it is November. We have started the Rabi season. It is more short days and, of course, milder temperature. These are equal to spring wheats of the West, and Borlaug's wheats were spring wheat. We received the material in 1962-63, dwarf stature coupled with long panicles at the IRI. We developed what we call a 5-year plan. It is published as 5 years of research. It is not part of the Planning Commission 5-year plan. It was our own scientist 5-year plan. We developed our own 5-year plan. The first was invite Dr. Borlaug, 63-64, national demonstrations in farmers' fields, 64-65, selection of material, then finally 67-68. We had predicted if all these things we suggest will be done, then 67-68 will mark a new beginning in the agricultural history of India. And that happened. Normally in biology it may not happen because agriculture is a very risky profession. You can have drought, you can floods. But it so happened, for the good fortune of the country, it happened that the 5-year plan exactly like Chandrayaan went also. It exactly went in the same way and got it. Now the reason for this revolution was a green revolution symphony. I am mentioning it today because there is frequent talk of second green revolution, why are we not having green revolution and so on. The green revolution or any revolution can come only if you've got all the links in the chain completely in place. For example, the 1968 green revolution was because mutually reinforcing packages of technology, of services, public policies, particularly with reference to input-output pricing, marketing, that is assured and remunerative marketing, holds a key. And above all, you and I may talk about agriculture, but who produces foods? The farmers who work in sun and rain, farmers like. In fact, the Green Revolution was really spearheaded by Sikh farmers of the Punjab, in whose blood, I say, farming is in their blood. Extraordinarily dedicated farmers, one of those farmers who undertook a national demonstration. The historical importance of this achievement is Indian farmers achieved as much progress in wheat production in 4 years as during the preceding 4,000 years, from Mohenjo-daro to 1947. It was also even before the Green Revolution started. The Green Revolution started in the United States in the early 40s with hybrid corn or hybrid maize. That was the first major breakthrough, scientific genetic breakthrough, which can give yields much higher than the previous varieties. The hybrid corn then started the use of fertilizer, pesticides, and so on. And you all know Rachel Carson's famous statement, Silent Spring, in 1962. And Albert Schweitzer, when he read the book, he said, man has lost the capacity to foresee and to forestall. He will end by destroying the earth, destroying the earth, and that was his. Now in 1967, when I used to travel a lot in Punjab, villages, Haryana, what we call the heartland of the Green Revolution, Punjab, Haryana and Western UP, I found farmers were very enthusiastic and they wanted another even shorter plant called triple dwarf. There was sort of clamor for hypothetical triple dwarf wheats. And they were applying wanted to apply too much fertilizer, wanted to get 10 tons instead of 5 tons. Then my address at the Science Congress in Varanasi on January 3rd, 1968, I gave a talk on sustainable food production. Intensive cultivation of land without conservation of soil fertility and soil structure would lead ultimately to a springing up of deserts. In other words, soil health destruction, overutilization of groundwater, depletion of the aquifer, excessive use of fertilizers, pesticides, and also replacement of local varieties with 1 or 2 genetic strains, because genetic homogeneity enhances genetic vulnerability to pests and diseases. And so this was the beginning of what you may call a movement for evergreen revolution. Soon afterwards, the United Nations, after the Stockholm Conference, had set up a commission under Gro Harlem Brundtland, who was Prime Minister of Norway for many years, also WHO, World Health Organization Director General. It was called Our Common Future. I was president of IUCN, the World Conservation Union at that time, and I said there can be no happy common future without a better common present. You need a better common present to have a better common future. In other words, excessive poverty, excessive inequity, whether it is economic or gender inequity, is not good for a happy future. So the concept of green to an evergreen revolution came. Green revolution is based on a commodity-centered approach. The first 5 crops in which we had a yield breakthrough was wheat, rice, jowar, bajra and maize. These 5 crops, and Government of India introduced what is called a high-yielding varieties program in these crops in the beginning. So it was a commodity-centered increase in productivity. There were changes in plant architecture, harvest index, that is the apportionment of total photosynthate to the grain rather than to the straw, and also change in the physiological rhythm, insensitive to photoperiodism. But in the case of evergreen revolution, it means its definition of evergreen revolution is increasing productivity in perpetuity without associated ecological harm. In other words, how do you, because in a country like ours, where over 80% of farmers are small farmers, you have to produce more and more from the same land without destroying the soil fertility, destroying the aquifer and so on. You can achieve evergreen revolution by 2 methodologies. One is organic farming, cultivation without any use of chemical inputs like mineral fertilizers, chemical pesticides. It has to be done largely with the help of animals. Crop, livestock, integrated farming. If you have both crop and livestock, then you can have the manure for the field and so on. The other method is we call green agriculture. The difference is you can use integrated pest management, integrated nutrient supply, and also scientific natural resources management and so on. You can use the minimum essential pesticide, minimum essential urea or any other fertilizer, and also you can grow either normally Mendelian breeding or molecular breeding. Basic principle of farming is if farm ecology and economics go wrong, nothing else will go right. Now it is very important, universities, I am again happy that the Vice Chancellor has taken the lead in promoting the sustainable development. For example, in 1980, when Indira Gandhi came back to power, in the then 6-5-year plan, we introduced a whole set of programs, universities and eco-development. It was called Universities and Eco-Development. One was the Ganga Action Plan. I'm glad our Prime Minister has now again revived the Ganga Plan. That means there were 20 universities along the Ganga, from the Sagar to Gangotri. You had a number of universities. The idea was to involve all of them in a longitudinal study of Ganges pollution, how to manage pollution, and how to create the NSS volunteers could spread information why we should keep the Ganga clean. Otherwise, it will not be possible. Education and awareness generation are absolutely must. Similarly, along the Himalayas, from Nehu up to Srinagar, you had a large number of universities. What role will they play in eco-development? It is not each individually, but a coordinated action plan in which all of them, both the faculty and the students, will take part in Himalayan ecosystem, where Dr. Diwan is now trying to save the ecosystem. Similar one on the Western Ghats. Along the Western Ghats, starting from Pune, the university at Pune, you go on Mangalore, all of them universities, combine them. I still believe IGNOU, with its your distance education, you can again catalyze all these universities to take up similar work. Knowledge, traditional knowledge was mentioned by the Vice Chancellor, large number of varieties. One of the basic principles of evergreen revolution is genetic diversity. Genetic diversity, I mentioned earlier, genetic homogeneity is not conducive to sustainable agriculture. These we call tribal people, they are very, very knowledgeable. They live with nature. For example, this lady in Orissa, the Koraput region is a center of origin, a center of diversity of rice. There are large number of varieties of rice there. Thanks to people like her, what she does is, before the grain becomes ripe, she harvests and keeps it. Otherwise, they will scatter, the dispersal of seeds. You will not be able to harvest it. She knows exactly when. This lady, for example, maintains so many varieties of rice. We have a farmers' rights database like this Surudan. All these varieties have tribal names. Tribal taxonomy is a value-added taxonomy because it's taxonomy plus the purpose for which the variety is grown. Something will be drought-tolerant, something will be salt-tolerant, something will be insect-resistant. So the name itself, or good quality, something like Kadajira, it is very good, they say, for health and number of diseases. Medicinal rices. So many rices are there. And that is why the tribal taxonomy is exceedingly important. Fortunately, in the last few years, we had two major legislation, Plant Variety Protection and Farmers' Rights Act and the Biodiversity Act. Both of them provide for recognition and reward to primary conservers. Government has set up a Genome Savior Award for primary conservers. We have been recommending a similar one for animals, excellent animals. We used to have very good buffaloes, Badavari buffalo along Bundelkhand, which had 14% butterfat content, 15% butterfat, unlike the other, now Murrah and so on, which have got 7-8%, but they are 14%. We have lost most of them. Along the Rajasthan Canal was the Rati breed, very hardy desert breed. So unless people now conserve these animals also, not only plant varieties, animals also. Now we also need, as I said, education. So we started from our foundation what we call genome clubs. It is to bridge the genetic divide. Genome clubs in schools and tribal areas, understanding the plant genome, even the human genome. One advantage of studying human genome is, all people will then see how irrelevant are all these artificial differences between each one of us within the humankind. You may be anything, you may have belonged to any religion, but our genome is the same. 99.9% of the genome is common. Whether you are black or white, I am happy the US has now transcended the problem of race and selected. Now, in genetics, there is no disparity. There are differences in genetic makeup. But this kind of thing from childhood, from the university, now the Department of Biotechnology has extended this program of genome clubs all over the country. Formerly, our universities also used to play a very important role by maintaining botanical and zoological gardens. Even now, there are some botanical gardens. Many of them are not well funded. For example, the Kew Botanical Garden, it's not attached to the university, one of the world famous universities. We have also at SIP in Calcutta, one of the National Botanical Garden. This is where, you see, a botanical garden in the past was also the route to transfer genetic material between one country to the other. The Hevea brasiliensis, the rubber, natural rubber, came from Brazil to UK. Sir Henry Wickham brought it. Then Sir Henry Wickham brought seeds of the same rubber to Sri Lanka in 1875. The Sri Lanka plants are still there, the original rubber plants introduced by Sir Henry Wickham. But he introduced the plant. Today it is a multi-billion-dollar industry, the rubber industry. The natural rubber is in such great demand, and this is one of the great blessings. You had it from Brazil, but today India, for example, the natural rubber industry has grown enormously because synthetic rubber, once there was a fear, synthetic rubber may replace natural rubber, but synthetic rubber cannot have the same heat tolerance. See, when you see a plane landing, you will see sparks on the tire. Enormous amount of heat is generated. So the rubber must have the ability to... So natural rubber has that property, and that is why it is in great demand. Well, we are now spoiling the environment, and therefore a group of countries, there is a genetic trust, heritage trust, along with the Norwegian countries. The Norwegian countries, or always Nordic countries, have been very, very environmentally conscious, even before Stockholm and so on. Off the coast of Norway, in a place near the North Pole, under permafrost condition, a very large gene bank has been set up. It can store several million. It is like a Noah's Ark. When you have lost everything, you are kept somewhere. There are gene banks in our own in Delhi. They are the National Bureau of Plant Genetic Resources, which has also a capacity for nearly 1 million seed samples can be maintained there. In other words, these are called ex situ conservation. It is no compensation for in situ. Ex situ is only preservation under ice and cryogenic condition. But in situ is both preservation plus evolution. It is all the time evolving. That is where the actual conservation comes in. Now, we need to have, for a sustainable agriculture movement, need some large areas where we can show how sustainable agriculture or evergreen revolution can be practiced. We called it a special agricultural zone where there are ecological problems. How to convert it into a sustainable agricultural system based on the principles of ecology, of economics, equity, employment, and energy, renewable energy. For example, the Rajasthan Canal, or Indira Gandhi Canal, as it is now called, is a good example. It's a really technological marvel in the sense our engineers from Roorkee and other places could design the canal, take the water. But if you go there on either side now, there are a large number of ecological problems. There is siltation of the canal, there is salinization of the area. This has to be maintained in an ecologically sound way. This is why I said this can be an arid zone, special agricultural zone, where you can demonstrate the evergreen revolution. In spite of our green revolution, in spite of all the progress we have made, India is the home for the largest number of undernourished people. It's very unfortunate. On one hand, we have advanced technologically. On the other hand, we are still the largest number of hungry persons. More recently, the International Food Policy Research Institute had published a state hunger index. They are showing the Madhya Pradesh as the worst of the affected here. This morning, addressing the sanitation conference I mentioned, there are 3 aspects of food security. One is availability of food in the market. We are all right there. Access to food economically, purchasing power. That is also improving with the NREGA, National Rural Employment Guarantee Program. Even those who have no money at all are able to buy food. But where we are not making progress is the absorption of food in the body. In other words, sanitation, environmental hygiene, and associated primary health care. Enormous load of intestinal infection, unclean drinking water, and sanitation. So that availability, access, and absorption can be solved only by better sanitation, environmental hygiene. I think that must be the reason why our hunger is still very stubborn. It always puzzled me. Why is it, in spite of all the PDS, public distribution system, ICDS, noon meal program, NREGA, why our figures are not going down in hunger? Marginally they go in percentage, but not in numbers, because we are still adding to the population, 16 to 17 million people every year. So it is important, therefore, to look at this in its totality, and magnitude of the malnutrition problem is very serious. Almost 50% of under 5 children are malnourished. Under 5, underweight. 20-30% children are born with low birth weight, with consequent disabilities in brain development, cognitive abilities, in a knowledge era, and so on. I don't want to give you more sad data, but the fact remains that we must be conscious of the fact that a very large number of our countrymen, our own brothers and sisters and children, are having serious problems in terms of adequate nutrition. And that is not only because of lack of food in the market. Because Sub-Saharan Africa and South Asia are the 2 major hunger hotspots of the world. Sub-Saharan Africa, there is a problem of availability, but not in South Asia. South Asia is not availability, but now we can, for example, even with an enormous amount of genetic variability, our agro-biodiversity is very rich. We have problems like vitamin A deficiency, minerals, iron, iodine, and so on, but we have a whole set of vegetables, fruits, and which can what we call horticultural remedy for nutritional maladies. So the National Horticulture Mission, one of the things we will do, Dr. Ashok Pillai, in the course also, is to indicate how, using the big missions, National Horticulture Mission is 20,000 crore mission, how do you mainstream, will run a course for home science graduates to influence their own areas. How do you really mainstream nutrition in the horticulture mission? So that The horticulture mission is not to grow some banana for export and so on, but it is also to address the immediate nutritional requirement of our own children, particularly micronutrient deficiency. The community food and water security system ultimately is the most sustainable. If your community will take it up, develop a gene bank, technically called in-seed to on-farm conservation of land races, seed bank, grain bank, I find in the audience to Professor Suman Sahai. She has developed such banks in Jharkhand and Uttarakhand. It's a very important method of helping people to develop their own self-reliant methods of food security. The grain bank, the seed bank, water bank, so the water security. Well, more recently, last year, a year ago, Shri Sharad Pawar, the Minister for Agriculture, announced a new policy for farmers, national policy for farmers. Neither in colonial period nor in independent India, we have had a policy for farmers. We have had policies for agriculture, for farming, not for farmers. The first policy in the whole in both colonial and independent history, there's a farmer. What does it say? The most important point is, how do you improve the economic well-being of the farmers? In other words, measure progress of farming through increase in the improvement of income of the farmers, the real income of the farmers. It's all right for you and me, so many million tons, but the farmer, the individual requires their own income. They don't have a pay commission and so on. They have to have also some income. This is why the income orientation through value addition and through proper. The other thing is provide adequate opportunities for non-farm employment. Today, there are 60% of our population is agriculture. That is not sustainable over a period of time because we were 75% when we had a population of 300 million just before independence. When we were 30 crores of people, 75%. Now 60% of 1.1 billion people, 1.1, almost double the population of India when we became independent. It is not sustainable over a period of time. My own view is by 2020, 2025, we should bring down the number of people directly working in the farm, ploughing and so on, to about 1/3 of the population. I don't think we can go beyond it. Although industrialized countries have 2 to 3%, they started long ago. Modern industry is not very job-oriented. They have more jobless growth. And jobless growth is joyless growth. But we have to bring more non-farm employment through agro-processing, value addition to primary products and so on. And there are two special categories. Youth, a majority of our population are young people. They are not attracted to farming. Even the elder people, 40% of those interviewed by the National Sample Survey Organization said they would like to quit farming if we have an alternative opportunity. If there is an opportunity to do so, they will quit farming. Where will they go? They can't go, and except come to slums in cities and so on. Youth will be attracted to farming only if farming becomes intellectually satisfying and economically rewarding. Similarly, increasing feminization of agriculture. If you go to Uttarakhand and so on, men have gone to add some income to the family. You take Vidarbha, all the widows, people are farmers. The large Mahila Kisan number is growing in this country, but there is no policy at all for women farmers, the support systems which they require, and so we must have. And then finally, of course, we must safeguard the ecological foundation for sustainable agriculture. So what kind of paradigm shift you require from green to an evergreen revolution? First, research strategies to meet the challenge of diversity of farming system. Don't have same agronomy everywhere. Suit it to location-specific condition. Diversity of farming conditions and agroecological, socio-economic, social, cultural conditions. Then more and more participatory breeding with farming families. For example, in Koraput, a variety Kala Jeera was developed, an improved variety of strain of Kala Jeera was developed purely by participatory breeding with tribal women and men. Participatory knowledge management, so that you combine frontier knowledge with traditional wisdom, the ecological prudence of the past is combined. Proactive advice on land use based on home needs, nutritional deficiencies, and market opportunity. From a cropping system to a farming systems approach, the difference is cropping system involves crop, say rice-wheat rotation. But farming system includes animals also. It may be a poultry, it may be small ruminants like sheep or goats, or it may be large ruminants like buffalo and cow. It's a mixed farming system. It used to be common before Gradually it has gone. So it is necessary to have a farming systems approach. So it can be fish also, crop, animal, fish can be, and so that natural resource and pest management. Proactive research on the mitigation of the adverse impact of climate change. Now, green to an evergreen revolution, improving soil fertility and fostering a soil health care movement and giving every farmer a soil health monitoring card. This will be part of the Agenda 21, which the students will prepare for their own area. Adoption of agroforestry systems, exceedingly important, using nitrogen-fixing species like subbabul, Leucaena leucocephala, and above all, rainwater harvesting and more income per drop of water. I mentioned earlier that you require a large movement for non-farm employment. The Chinese, for example, between 1980 and 86, they moved 100 million people from farm to non-farm through what they call township village enterprises. We may not be able to do it, but our concept of bio-village links ecological security with livelihood security, two sides of the same coin, livelihood security and ecological security, create a large number of employment opportunities. It can be self-help groups of women and men, depends on the area, biopesticide, biofertilizers, which are needed for sustainable agriculture. Bio-valleys, bio-valley means along with the watershed, bio-industrial watershed, you can call it a bio-valley, where you create a number of small employment opportunities. For example, medicinal plants, small micro enterprises supported by microcredit. It may be self-help groups and so on. It said bio-valley is to biotechnology what Silicon Valley is to information technology. It means you develop a whole set of infrastructure. The whole biomass utilization. If I say that we have produced 120 million tons of rice in the country, the rice plant has also produced 250 million tons of other biomass, the straw, the leaf, the bran, the husk. What are we doing with it? We are only giving figures in terms of yield of grain, but what about the rest of the part? The rice biopark is one method by which, in this particular model, you can make 29 different value-added products from the bran, the husk, and the straw. It's very important. There's a large interest today in biodiesel, bio-oils. Bio-oils are palm oil, jatropha, rapeseed. But biodiesel, people don't realize, for 1 megawatt of power, you require nearly 700 hectares of land, 700 hectares of land. So that is why there is a concern. If you divert land from food to fuel, then food security will suffer. In fact, last year, the maize price went up very high, largely because the state of Iowa in the United States, which is their corn state, diverted much of their corn to the production of alcohol, the ethanol production, because there is a great demand for the kind of biofuels and bio-oils. Now, evergreen revolution, one of the dangers to evergreen revolution, that is improvement of productivity in perpetuity, is the impact of climate change. We'll have to deal with this. This will be in one lecture in the course. Changes in temperature, changes in precipitation, drought, floods, sea level rise, and transnational pests, transboundary pests. This will also become very serious for human beings, like malaria and so on. But we had already the H5N1 strain of avian influenza. There is also UG99 strain of stem rust coming from Uganda. It has come almost to our doorsteps. So the transboundary pests will also become very important. How do we prepare? We have to have anticipatory. One of the problems the university will have to address, Dr. Rajshekharan Pillai, is what has been called by Richard Lowe as nature deficit disorder. The children of today, urban children of today, are having, according to him, that's why he said, lost child in the woods, the child he took to the woods. People are not going now. Even this campus has such beautiful trees and so on. How many students and scholars living here have really appreciated the beauty of the flora here, sometimes the fauna, and so on. So this is called nature deficit disorder. Nature deficit disorder, where deficit nature. Our education system will have to help in overcoming this disorder, because it can go to attention disorder, it can lead to this depression, it can lead to obesity. So mainstream harmony with nature. We have, fortunately, Gandhiji's famous saying, nature provides for everyone's need but not for everyone's greed. It is true. In rice, for example, we have over 150,000 varieties of rice in the world. We have about 50,000 of them in India. And many of them can grow when there is a flood, say Kosi flood. If you have deep water rices, they can grow above the flood water. They can grow above the flood water. So there are if you see, rice is a wide range of variability from Kuttanad in Kerala, below sea level, to high altitude in the Himalayas. You grow everywhere. Now we must conserve them. We must keep them ready. You all like, I don't know, you must be enjoying potato, which came from Latin America. But potato revolution took place in our country only because of a very important discovery by the scientists of the Central Potato Research Institute, Simla. They found that in certain parts of North India, particularly Punjab, Haryana region, this September, October is an aphid-free season. Aphid is the vector for virus diseases. Potato is susceptible to a number of virus diseases. So if you produce a seed potato during the aphid-free season, then you can plant the tuber. But once 2 degrees, 3 degrees centigrade temperature goes up, you lose that advantage. Then what will happen to our potato? You will have to grow it from true seed like tomato, brinjal and so on. But we must now itself prepare what is known as TPS, true potato seed material. In the former agriculture, women like this will never grow a single crop. It is always a mixed crop because their agronomy was a risk-minimizing agronomy, not a profit-maximizing agronomy. They wanted some crop or the other. If there's a drought, you have a legume, you have a cereal, you have got ragi or bajra, some other millets, minor millets and so on. Coping mechanism against natural calamity, we have to learn from them. And then the whole area of knowledge transfer, for which distance education, where IGNOU is our flagship, there is enormous possibility today of linking all the villages of the country. The last mile and the last person connectivity can now be achieved through internet and cell phone or FM radio and internet. And then thanks to ISRO, the Indian Space Research Organization, we have now satellite connectivity to what we call village resource centers. Village resource centers at the block level, satellite connection. Village knowledge centers, internet connection at the village level. The last mile and the last person through connection between cell phone and... Now, so way ahead in sustainable development, save dying crops, enlarge the food basket. Originally, there are books which chronicle, in the past we depend upon our food and health security on 300 to 400 plants. Today your PDS provides only wheat and rice. We have come down, the food basket has shrunk. Enlarge the food basket. Mainstream nutrition. Promote community food security system, the gene, seed, grain, water bank. Work towards an evergreen revolution, major farming system. Work towards a small farm management revolution. More than a second green revolution, what we need today is a management revolution in small farms by which we can give the small farmers the power and economy of scale, because over 80% of the farms are 1 hectare and less. You all have read recently in Singapore, 11,000 farmers were given compensation for 400 acres, 500 acres. What is the ownership per head? So it is getting a very small fragmented farm. It is important to have a small farm management and attract and retain youth in farming, empower women in agriculture. Kisan credit cards, we wanted data. Several crores of Kisan credit cards have been given. How many have been given to women farmers? NABARD said they don't keep data, gender disaggregated data. But privately said there may be 2 or 3% out of the whole card. Therefore, it is important to see that women farmers get credit and so on. Design safety nets to address the immediate needs of the hungry. And finally, give attention to clean drinking water, sanitation, primary health care. Coming back once again to the indigenous knowledge systems. In 1989, I was asked to develop a proposal in Guyana, the British Guyana, in the Caribbean region. And the then president gave 1 million acres of prime rainforest to the Commonwealth for demonstrating what is meant by sustainable management of rainforests. The president said, experts come to me and say, Mr. President, you must manage your forest sustainably. So he said, Mr. Expert, I give you land. You demonstrate what is meant by sustainable management of rainforest. And that was very clever of him. He gave $1 million, not a small amount. He has got 17 million acres of rainforest. So when I went there to the forest, I saw the Amerindians, they are called. There are three groups of ethnic groups there. The Indo-Guyanese, the Afro-Guyanese, and the Amerindians. Indo-Guyanese are about 47%. The president of Guyana is an Indo-Guyanese. Afro-Guyanese about 42%. The remaining are Amerindians. This Amerindian song, when translated in English, means the sky is held up by trees. If the forest disappears, the sky, which is the roof of the world, collapses. Nature and man then perish together. To say that you should not cut trees. So I made this man director of the campus. And some of my colleagues objected. He has not got university education. I said, doesn't matter. He knows about forest than any of us can do. He became the director of this campus, the Ivokrama campus, this Amerindian chief, the Amerindian chief. Look at again when we had tsunami, December 26, 2004. We had a tremendous problem. But the mangrove forests, wherever there were mangroves, they acted as a bioshield, a speed breaker, so that the tsunami did not. Wherever there were mangroves, people were saved. Again, as an illustration of ancient wisdom, if you go to the temple at Chidambaram, Lord Nataraja, the cosmic dance, you find there is every temple has a temple tree. And this is Exocaria agalocha, a mangrove. Why did the people who built the Chidambaram temple choose a mangrove as a temple tree? Obviously, they must have had tsunamis or other kinds of problems earlier, and they found this was a savior. You see, whether you go to a sacred grove or a sacred tree, you find there's a reason for it, for the choice of the tree. Some people have studied it, anthropologists and so on. Ultimately, the population supporting capacity of our ecosystem is being exceeded in many parts of India. We are overpopulated in many areas. The pressure of population on land and water is becoming a difficulty. This is why a contemporary of Malthus, Condorcet, said that population growth can be limited if people have a duty towards those who are not yet born. Their duty is not to give them existence, but to give them happiness. Very important, the happiness. This morning I congratulated the Bhutanese minister, one country which has developed an index called Gross National Happiness. Not gross national product, GNP or GDP, but GNH. I think once we have that concept that our children must be in a happy society, then you have biohappiness, eco-happiness and so on. You have that nature deficit disorder will go away and we'll have more and more. No, I'm sorry. The last slide. The last again is a tribute to Indira Gandhi, who was really a conservationist prime minister who did real. And on today, I think we have to remember the enormous contribution she made in terms of, again, quoting from her own. I call this the philosophical underpinning of the Evergreen Revolution. Modern man must re-establish an unbroken link with nature and with life. He must again learn to invoke the energy of growing things and to recognize, as did the ancients in India centuries ago, that one can take from the earth and the atmosphere only so much as one puts back into them. This is the basis of the Evergreen Revolution. The other one, Green Revolution, became a greed revolution. Greed revolution means you overexploit the groundwater, you apply too much fertilizer, wanting to make short-term gains. The short-term gains and the long-term. This sentence is very important for sustainability science. One can take from the earth and the atmosphere only so much. That is carbon emission and carbon absorption. This is quite a very foresighted statement. In the atmosphere, between the balance between carbon emissions and the carbon absorption. In their hymn to earth, the sages of Atharva Veda chanted, and I quote, "What of these I dig out, let that quickly grow over. Let me not hit thy vitals or thy hearts." That is the principle of sustainable development. Don't hurt the vitals, that is, don't remove the forests, don't destroy the soil, don't pollute the lakes and water. So, ladies and gentlemen, I hope this initiative of IGNOU in a contribution, as it has been called, to our sustainable future, will attract attention not only from students, but from others who are interested in practicing their sustainable lifestyles and so on. Thank you very much for your patience. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. We will now get two of our publications released. I request Vice Chancellor, sir, to please get them released. The publications are IGNOU in Printline and IGNOU All Times Everywhere. IGNOU in Printline is a compilation of media coverage of IGNOU during the last few months or perhaps a year. And IGNOU All Times Everywhere is a kind of a magazine where contributions have been made by most of our teachers from the university. And both of these have been compiled by Dr. Ravi Mohan and Mr. Shirojit Mahalanobis, the media advisor to the Vice Chancellor. We have with us Professor Abid Hussain, who will give the foundation lecture. I request Neha to introduce the illustrious speaker.
Professor Abid Hussain is an expert on monetary policies and is currently a member of the International Panel on Democracy and Development of UNESCO. Professor Hussain, in his long illustrious career, has held prominent positions in various capacities as an Indian ambassador to United States, the Secretary of the Department of Heavy Industries, the Secretary of the Ministry of Commerce, and the member of Planning Commission. He was also the Vice Chairman of Rajiv Gandhi Foundation, New Delhi, Chancellor of Central University, Hyderabad, and a trustee of the Indira Gandhi National Center for the Arts Trust. Dr. Abid Hussain has presided over several national and international conferences and contributed papers on contemporary issues.
Professor Abid Hussain will speak on liberal education, pluralism, and diversity. Would you like to use this? No.
Mr. Vice Chancellor, sir, Dr. Swaminathan, members of the governing body, and friends. First of all, I would like to thank your Vice Chancellor for having asked me to be here today. I definitely deem it a great privilege to be speaking in this particular university, which is not confined to Delhi or even to India, but has it which has been bestowed on me because of the special affection that he has for me. I thank him for that. Well, friends, you have just now heard an illuminating and scintillating lecture from Professor Swaminathan. After that, it is indeed extremely difficult for anybody to speak. My advice to you would be that if you are ever asked to make a speech in this university, don't accept it if you are to speak after Dr. Swaminathan. Dr. Swaminathan is a jewel in the crown of India. And therefore it is really a privilege to listen to him along with all of you. I know that I should not test your patience beyond a particular point and should be very brief. But I can count on your tolerance to bear with me for some time when I speak on the subject of education, rather liberal education, in an environment atmosphere of pluralistic society and diversity. I am not going to give any treatise which can be deemed to be very intellectual or an intellectual discourse. For I really don't belong to the order of those people who are deemed to be intellectuals. I will also not speak to you as to how the students have got to work, how they have got to discipline themselves to become a useful citizen of this country and also earn a livelihood for sustenance of their life. Because I am absolutely convinced, and I am sure of it, that you know it. The pressures of life, the compulsions of your family requirements, your own personal ambitions will be constantly making you work harder in order to come out with flying colors in this new competitive world. I do not have to tell you that you have got to study very hard, because this is a knowledge era, for you are aware of that also. So therefore permit me to speak on that part of education which can be described as liberal education. Education certainly is extremely important to equip a person to earn his livelihood and live with dignity in this life. Education should really give you that sort of a professional knowledge which will make you excel in the market. But education is more than that. As they say, man does not live by bread alone. Similarly, education cannot be confined only to professionalism and your success in the market. There is something much more than that to education. Education is a long life, ceaseless pursuit of knowledge. It is a desire to chisel the mind in such a way that a human being is remade. It is the making of the man into something brighter, something greater, something higher and good. Education is something which must be able to fill your heart and mind with those ambitions with which you may be able to say that I have served the nation, I have carried the burden of my people, and I have been able to bring credit and glory to my institutions, to my community, to my nation, and to the world as such. Education, to my mind, is really lifting a person from untruth to truth, from darkness to light, and from death to eternity. This is what we have been told and we have received from Vedas and others, that it is this elevation which is part and parcel of our position in this human life. Now the question may be raised that how do we really attain this sort of education in our lifetime? I tried to think over it. Many ideas come to my mind. But I somehow feel that if you could bring to your mind the image of Saraswati, you would be able to see as to how to go about educating yourself in this respect. Saraswati has got 4 hands. In one hand she has got the scriptures of the book. In the other she has got a rosary or a beads. And in the other 2 hands the veena, the musical instrument. What does it mean? The hand which has the book is giving you a call that you have got to find access to knowledge through books, through documents, through what you call discourses as have been given to you. It gives you an idea that there is no end to learning, and it has got to be constantly in that particular hand to be pursued. The other hand, which has got the rosary in it, is giving you the message that it's not enough to read, to be a bookworm, to be known as the person who has read the most of the books. But you have got to chew it, you have got to think over it, you have got to repeat it, you have got to understand it. And unless that is done, your education is incomplete. And yet one more thing about the musical instrument which the goddess is holding on. What is it, the meaning of that particular thing? It says that whatever you achieve, whatever you have learnt, whatever you have meditated upon, let it become a music of the heart and the mind. Let there be a symphony in which there is a combination of what you have read and what is there outside the world. It is that harmony, that music which should be there. The lessons that you have learned should be music to the ears of others when you propound them. It should be music to your soul itself, and it should lift you to those divine heights about which I quoted from that Sanskrit verse. Yet one more thing, that the vehicle on which the Saraswati moves are the swans. Swan is a bird. In our mythology, it means that it's a bird which can distinguish between the water and milk. Your education will be incomplete even with that 2 or 3 things that you have combined together, unless and until you have got the discrimination to make a difference between the good and the bad, the true and the untrue, the knowledge and the darkness, the death and the elevation to eternity. At each and every stage you have got to decipher that particular thing. Otherwise there is a danger, a great danger, that you may become the victims of the beliefs which you have read in the books or about which you were repeatedly being guided. It is absolutely important that the vichar must follow your reading and your studying of the books and the others. It is that thinking which is absolutely important, along with the reading or the things of that type. It moves us still further. That this knowledge is not complete which you have got. First of all, make your mind clear on this particular thing. When Buddha was dying, his disciples assembled round him and said that, "O Master, you will be no more with us. Where will we go when we have our doubts? Where do we understand as to what is to be done or not to be done?" The other disciple said that the Master, the Buddha, the Enlightened, has already given us all the lessons that were necessary, and his words are enough to guide us. Buddha listens to that. opens his eyes, stretches his hand, picks up the leaves from the ground, and asks, "Oh Ananda, tell me, have I collected all the leaves in my palm which are there?" He says, "No, Master. There are many more than what you have been able to capture and keep in your palm." Buddha said similarly, "I might have given you the knowledge which I have collected through great and large wanderings and thinking and meditation. But there is much more you have got to achieve, and it has got to be there." That is about, there is no book, no idea which is the end or the final things. I know there are certain books which are considered to be the divine, but it cannot be the last word. You have still got to stretch your hand to find new meanings, new significance, and new knowledge. And then, yet more thing, that is the Vartan. You see, Vichar is one, Vineet is another, and Vartan, your own attitude, your work, your method, that's also important. And there nobody will be able to guide you, but you must come to your own conclusions and move forward. Last but one stanza of Bhagavad Gita comes to my mind, in which Krishna says, "O Arjuna, I have given you all the knowledge you needed. I have cleared all the doubts which you had in your mind. I have shown what is correct and what is wrong. I have shown as to where you have got to set your eyes and mind. I have appeared before you in a form in which nobody else will ever see me. Perfect knowledge I have given it to you. But Arjuna, now think over it and do what you consider to be correct." That's the scientific way of thinking. The great Krishna gives you all the knowledge. There cannot be anything better that one could conceive of in literature or religion or anything more than the Krishna's thing. And yet he says, you have now got to think and do as to what is correct. So there, I go to yet one more point. As to what really happens if your mind remains frozen, if your mind refuses to think and move forward. There is a very, very tragic story of Eichmann. I won't say a tragic story, but a story from one can learn the tragedy of life and how to get over it. Eichmann was extremely close to Hitler. He was a great professional. He was a great artist. He was a man known in the whole of Berlin and Germany. But it was he who was responsible for great atrocities committed on Jews. When he was brought for his trial, the judge asked him, "Oh, Eichmann, tell me one thing. I have gone through your dossier and I find that you were a good professional man. You were not a criminal. You were not a wicked man. But how can such a man, such an educated man, commit the sort of crimes that you committed against the Jews? You tore their skin out and made shoes out of it. How could you do it? I want an explanation for it." Eichmann was taken aback. And he said, "My Lord, give me some time. Let me think over it, and I'll come and speak to you tomorrow. Explain it to you tomorrow." Next morning, Eichmann comes. And he stands before the judge and says, "My Lord, execute me. I can't really stand it anymore. The whole night I could not slumber at all. It was a terrible thing which I did, and for which I should be executed." The judge said, "Eichmann, that we are going to do. But I have still not received an answer to the question which I had raised. You, an educated man, you, a highly professional person, you, a person who was respected in the community, could commit such crimes. He said, my lord, I thought over it, and my answer is, I believed everything which my parents told me about the Jews. I believed the lies. I did not question them. And I leave behind this testament for the coming generations, that even if your parents were to say something about somebody, examine it. Unfreeze your prejudices and then see as to what could be achieved. That's an important lesson which we have got to learn. You may be most knowledgeable. You may be most eminent in your profession. But if you don't have got that capacity to discriminate, as I was telling you, between the milk and the water, it is quite possible that you will be innocently committing the mistakes for which the whole society will pay very dearly. That is why they say that however educated you may be, you must have a guru. Nobody can say that Arjuna had no knowledge of things. He had all the knowledge, but still he needed Krishna to guide him. In your life, you will have to find a guru. You will have to find somebody who would be, with whom you can discuss things, deliberate over things, and find the correct answers or the other. But then again, the caution is this, that however that great guru may be, however refined that character or saintly attitude he may be having, he could also go wrong. In 1933, there was an earthquake in Bihar. Hundreds of people died in Patna. And Gandhiji made a statement and said that this calamity has befallen the people of Patna because they were unjust and unfair to the Harijans. Those days the word was Harijan and not Dalits. Tagore read that particular statement of Gandhiji. He was annoyed at it. He said, what is he talking? What is this the way that he explains the nature's calamity and the man's calamity over the man? So he writes in a Statesman newspaper of Calcutta and criticizes Gandhiji for that, and he says that if his God has done this particular thing, this God must be a tyrannical God, an unjust God, a God not to be relied upon. Gandhiji read that particular statement, and he goes to Tagore's house, knocks at his door. Tagore receives him. He's surprised. He never expected that Gandhiji will be there. Gandhiji said that I have read your statement. I have come to debate, argue, and tell you as to why I say what I said. The two argued the whole day. When the sun was setting, Gandhiji leaves the house. Tagore remained unconvinced of Gandhiji's arguments. And Gandhiji could not really accept everything that Tagore was saying. And he leaves. Next morning, Tagore writes a letter to Gandhiji. In that letter, he says that, Bapu, you came to my house. It was a great blessing. I was not prepared for it, but you filled my heart with joy by your presence. But I could not agree with what you were saying that day. He said, after you left again, I thought over it, and I felt you are in the wrong. He said, last night I could not have an easy sleep because I was debating myself to understand your point of view. And Bapu, I don't agree with you. Even now when I am writing this letter, I am not convinced that you are right. And then he ends that letter by saying, but Bapu, Mahatma, when you left my house, I found the footprints of God on the floor of my house. Hey, look at that. I'm prepared to accept your divinity. I'm prepared to accept that you are a saintly character. You are a mighty person. But I don't agree with what you have said. So there come certain moments in your life when I have said that you must have a guru, but you must also have that particular strength of mind and heart to differ when you find that he is in the wrong. It is extremely necessary for you, as educated people, to understand this particular aspect of things. Then yet one more thing, that our education, our success in life, our prosperity is meaningless if we don't share it with others. If the base of a pyramid is not white, the pyramid's top, the summit will also not be high. So it is in our selfish interest also to see that we go on expanding the pyramid by sharing some of our prosperity, some of our successes, some of our achievements with the people. It is extremely necessary that we must think in terms of those poor people, hungry people, people who were denied the things which you and I have got in this life. There are still thousands and thousands of women who are trying to feed their children, but they can't. There are still thousands and thousands of people who are living on the pavements. There are still people who are going hungry the night and the day. There is a social responsibility. There is a certain duty on those who are successful in life to share some of these things with them. Gandhiji put it beautifully and he said, whenever you are going to take some action and you have a doubt about it, recall to your mind the face of the man, the poorest that you had seen. And ask yourself that if this step that you are taking is going to help or support him or not. How important that message is, how simple the message is, but its significance is absolutely great. It is extremely necessary for us to think of those who are deprived in our society today. And it is the responsibility, I don't say of the government. Government should do everything. But greater is the responsibility of you and I as individuals to take care of this particular problem. What is this education for if it only greeds, sustains my greeds and not the needs of others? There has got to be that balance. Not only for the good of the country, but for your own good. Because you are living in a house of glass where stones will be thrown and you will not be able to preserve the beautiful castle that you have built. Yet one more thing I would say, that your heart and mind should be widely open, and you must accept the cultures, the knowledge, the sciences, the technologies and others coming from all parts of the world. For some time we had closed ourselves. We had cut ourselves from the streams which were flowing outside, and we thought we were all right. It isn't so. I am not talking only of the impact of globalization or the consequences of it, but outside that also. If our Sanskriti has become great, it has become great because it was able to collect the best from everywhere. If our culture and our society is like a beautiful bouquet, it is because we have picked up flowers of different colors and hues and put them there. If the music of Mozart is great, it is because all the 100 instruments of music, where each one has got its separate note and music joined together, combined together, to make it a memorable music, unforgettable melody. We have got to do that. When Gandhiji was told that you are closing India and not letting things coming from outside, Gandhiji said, no. I do not want to live in a house where the doors, windows and ventilators are closed and there is no breeze coming from outside. But all that I want is that the breeze which comes will not blow you off the ground on which you should stand. It is that marvelous combination again, that you must know your Sanskriti, you must know your background, you must know the philosophy of this particular country and others. Stand firm on it. Nobody will ask you to move from there. But allow other cultures and other ideas and other thoughts to peep in. And that is India. Nehru put it beautifully when he returned from Europe. And he asked the question to himself that what is India? Who is India? How am I an Indian? He said, it is not the geography which makes India for me. Himalayas are glorious and beautiful and majestic, but that does not make India. The rivers are sacred and fine and nice and they are flowing all over, but that again does not make India. There is something, he said, unique about this particular country, which is able to make me feel that I am an Indian. And that, he said, are those beautiful enchanting words of our saints and sages, which for centuries have been captured by illiterate and literates alike and kept it going. And he said, as long as that particular philosophy imbibed in those particular words, those live words when they come, he said, I feel there is something enchanting. There is something about India that cannot be destroyed at the end. कुछ बात है कि हस्ती मिट्टी नहीं हमारी सदियों रहा है दुश्मन दौरे जहां हमारा. We have got to understand the essence of that particular thing, which makes us last for centuries. We have seen the sunset. We have gone through darkness. We have seen darkness at noon also. But then we are coming up. And when we are coming up with the help of the new education, the new knowledge, do not discard the other thing which has preserved you and brought you up to this particular level. I am not wanting in any way to suggest it to you to become retrograde. I am not wanting to suggest to you or give any message of become religious or this thing or the other. But I am talking of that particular culture which is in each and every one of us sitting like an idol in the heart. Bow down before it. The fire which is burning of divinity within us, don't extinguish it. Let more lamps be lighted with that, from that fire. Let ignition be there. We have got to give to the world also in this particular regard. Gandhi is great. Gandhi's name is great. The other day I was in Europe. I traveled to about 4 or 5 universities there and gave lecture. And I was surprised at the end of the speech. Whatever my subject was, they wanted to know more about Gandhi. Who is this Gandhi? You see, when Bernard Shaw was asked, can you tell me what was your experience of Gandhi? He said, it is like asking me, what was my experience when I saw the Himalayas for the first time? I think it was Einstein who said that the coming generations will be surprised to know that there was such a man in flesh and blood walking over this earth. What was that man? When India was celebrating its independence, Nehru and Patel sent an envoy to Gandhi, who was in Noakhali, saying that, Bapu, you must come back to Delhi because you are the father of the nation. The flag is going to be hoisted tomorrow and we want you there. When the envoy gives that letter to Gandhiji, he asks him that, first of all, tell me, did you have your meals or not? He said, no. He said, first you should have your food. When he finished his food, Gandhiji opens that letter. which says, as I told you a little before, that Bapu, come to Delhi, we are all waiting for you. You are the mightiest light that we have it, and our illumination will be incomplete without you. Come back to Delhi. Gandhiji reads that letter and he says, how stupid of them to ask me to come and celebrate when thousands and thousands of people are being butchered in our Kali. How can I come? Just as he says that, they were standing under a tree. A leaf falls from the tree. Gandhiji picks up that leaf. It's a dry, wrinkled leaf. And he gives it to this envoy and says, give it to Nehru and Patel and tell them that I am a poor man and I am the man of the poor. I have no gifts to give you on this auspicious day except this dry, wrinkled leaf of an aging tree. The envoy was so moved that he started weeping, crying. So his one tear drops on that particular leaf. Gandhiji says that perhaps God does not like my sending him a dry leaf, so he has put on it the tear of the wretched people of this country. Give it to him as my gift. You just see, I certainly don't mean to say that you and I can come up to that particular level. But we can appreciate that greatness. And in the very appreciation of the greatness of a great people, something rubs into us. There is a saying of Sheikh Sadi, one of the Persian poets. He one day picks up a lump of clay and finds its perfume to be divine. And he says that, oh, lump of clay, tell me, are you specially made by the God that you smell so well? He said, Master, no, I'm an ordinary lump of clay. But having lived in the company of roses, some of the fragrance of roses has rubbed into me. So when I say that you must think in terms of some of these great men of India, when I say that you must have a good company, it is with this particular hope that their goodness will rub into us. We have to do it. And maybe we'll have to go alone. Akla chalo. We must be ready for that also. There will come certain moments when you will be all alone, you will be desperate. You will not know what's going to happen to you when you feel that you are betrayed. Draupadi in that great palace where nobles, philosophers, near relations, far relations, they were all assembled. She was being disrobed. She feels desperate. She prays for help and support, but she gets nothing. And then she says that, oh Krishna, even you have betrayed me. Krishna says that you are looking for me somewhere else. I was in your heart itself. If you had just concentrated on your heart and asked it, you would have got the answer. And she got the answer. The answer came from her heart only, and it had such an effect that she could not be disrobed at all. So therefore, I know how difficult it is to be alone. I know how difficult it is when you are betrayed. But then you must have that confidence in yourself to move ahead. There is a saying amongst the Spanish. The one man tells the other person that, oh traveler, what are you looking for? There is no road in this forest. But as you walk, the path will be formed. So let us walk, and you will see that the path will be formed. I will end by reciting one of the rhythms which Mahatma Gandhi liked it immensely. And it goes like this. Lead, kindly light, amidst the encircling gloom, lead thou me on. I do not wish to see the distant scene. One step is enough for me. Let's take that step. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. This was truly poetical, and the episodes you cited were extremely illustrative of the pluralism of this country, liberal education, and diversity of this country. I request Vice Chancellor Professor B. N. Rajshekharan Pillai to offer mementos to the two guests as a token of her affection and respect. We are nearing the end of our program, but I invite very briefly Dr. Bashir Ahmed Shadrach from IDRC, who's here. Please come here.
Ladies and gentlemen, it's a proud privilege for the telecenter.org global community to launch a 6-month diploma program through the Indira Gandhi National Open University on the Foundation Day today, in the presence of Professor Swaminathan, who heads the Evergreen Revolution and also the Mission 2007 movement, Every Village and Knowledge Center in this country, and also Professor Abid Hussain, who has spoken to us about the value systems. The 6 months diploma program, which would be commencing in January, is about preparing the grassroots telecenter and village knowledge center workers in their ability to offer to the community an opportunity to connect to the knowledge world. So the idea that Professor Swaminathan earlier pronounced about the village resource centers catering to village knowledge centers and through the mobile phones and the community radio systems, the new revolution that he is envisaging, that the knowledge should spread in both the ways, from the other systems to the rural communities and also from rural communities to outside communities, would soon be realized through the 100,000 information and village resource centers and village knowledge centers being established in this country. And I am thankful to the Indira Gandhi National Open University for launching this 6 months diploma program, which would enable these knowledge workers to enhance their skills and to become the real change agents, the real competence, the rural core competence of this country. Thank you so much.
At the university, we are using information and communication technology in a big way, and our admission program has now become online, and we have also initiated steps for walk-in examination. I request Dr. Srivastav to please come here and very briefly explain online admission. And subsequently, Professor Aslam will give us details about walk-in examinations.
Respected Professor Abid Hussain, sir, Professor M.S. Swaminathan, sir, Vice Chancellor Professor V. N. Rajshekharan Pillai, Pro Vice Chancellors, Honorable members of BOM, guests, colleagues and friends. On behalf of Computer Division, I am here to offer online admission system support which is yet another facility. We have enabled facilities. Apart from, of course, we have all online supports for providing services through IGNOU website. And today on this 23rd Foundation Day, we are going to work for the online admission facility for the learners who want to become IGNOU students. This is for all programs where we do not have entrance test, and for these online programs, of course, it's based on the requirements from user, like we have students admission, students registration division. So I have to remember the users, mainly Dr. Mahapatra, who has been behind for getting this application, apart from, of course, all other who have been associated with this team. The team from computer division, of course, we have all direct, indirect supports, but mainly there are two persons, Ajay Rawat and Guru Swami. Then web team led by Madhavi Sharma, Sanjay Singh. Then we have persons in server room. Well, they all work together to provide such services. And this facility, sir, will be with payment gateway through Axis Bank. And we have three mode of payments like credit card, and then we have through bank draft, then cash challan also through the bank. And when we open this application, yeah. So it will be like we will start with like first the general instructions, then form, and then the final step is for submission of the form. So with this, I request sir to click the button and launch this program. Vice Chancellor, sir.
Congratulations and best wishes to the computer division and all those who have contributed to it. It's very great. Click.
Sir, the first one.
It's coming.
Yeah.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much. Congratulations.
कहाँ पे?
Yeah, I'll just.
नहीं उधर से यार एक स्लाइड वॉक इन ये वाला हाँ Can I have full? Yes. नहीं ठीक है. Okay. Distinguished dignitaries on the dais, members of the Board of Management, my colleagues and friends, I'll not take more than 2 minutes to introduce to you the National Center for Innovations in Distance Education, which is experimenting under the guidance of the Vice Chancellor, a new concept. You have heard about the admission. This is a new concept about walk-in examination. What we have done here is that we have just started. In fact, it's only a few months that Professor Rajesh Pillai took keen interest that we should go, if we are going for a walk-in admission, we should also go for a walk-in examination. So we are essentially today inaugurating a pilot project on walk-in examination. I'll give you in a minute the features of this. We have at present at IGNOU term and examination system twice a year, that is June and December every year. But with this new system, what we are making examination system learner-friendly and more flexible in order to provide an opportunity to our learners across the country so that as and when they are ready, they can come and get examined. This is a very important step which IGNOU has taken, and the special features of this project, as I said, which is the pilot and will become the full-fledged project, is that there is no need to wait for the 6-monthly term and examination now. Second, the choice of deciding the dates of examination lies with the students. Third, that individualized question papers for each student and learner will be produced under the software which we have developed. Online registration will be there for this walk-in examination. And then we will have online issuance of hall tickets. You know the students, how much problem they used to face. The exam is tomorrow and we didn't have hall tickets and things like that. Now it will be produced online. Online payment of registration fee for the walk-in examination. Then also online even clarifications of doubts through email. If they have any doubts, they can get back to us. Exam will be under web-based camera surveillance at the WIN examination centers. We can show you even Delhi one in just now under the surveillance, camera surveillance. And we may, by doing this, we may reduce the load on the term and examination, which all of you know that how much, tense we used to become at the end of term and examination because we had to cover the whole country. What we have done, sir, operational steps for this walk-in examination, we have developed a WinX software generating question papers, and we have started developing the question banks through workshops with the concerned faculty of IGNOU. We have started online registration for this walk-in examination, and generation and printing of question papers is going to happen on the day of the examination, as and when the examination is held. Conduct of WIN examination at selected examination centers initially, and then it can spread to others. And we will have evaluation of the answer books and processing of awards and certificates. We have today 2 programs ready for walk-in examination at the pilot stage. One is the certificate in organic farming. It's the School of Agriculture program, and the program coordinator is Dr. S.K. Yadav. Second is certificate in guidance from the School of Education, and program coordinator is Professor Vibha Joshi. We have WIN exam centers for pilot, Delhi Regional Center 1 and Delhi Regional Center 2. They are ready and equipped with surveillance arrangements for conducting these exams. And I think, without taking much time, it's a very small beginning towards a big goal under the able guidance of our Vice Chancellor. I'll now request Dr. O.P. Sharma and Registrar Student Evaluation Division, Dr. Mahapatra, to please come over here so that the Vice Chancellor can inaugurate this.
So congratulations to NCID and the team for the excellent work. Thank you. Please go ahead. Thank you.
What is this? इंटरनेट नहीं चल रहा है इसका इंटरनेट कनेक्शन कर लेंगे टाइम नहीं है
We are at the end of our program, but before I invite you to tea, the most onerous task, and that is proposing a vote of thanks, I invite Professor Elumalai to shoulder that responsibility.
Respected dignitaries on the dais, all the invited guests, staff
staff and faculty of the IGNOU. Without testing the patience of you anymore, let me briefly discharge the duty assigned to me. On behalf of IGNOU family, it is my proud privilege to propose a vote of thanks to all of us. To begin with, let me extend our sincerest thanks to Professor M.S. Swaminathan and Professor Abid Hussain for sparing their valuable time in spite of their busy schedule to grace the occasion. We have been greatly benefited from their profound insight and the lecture. It was really knowledgeable, educative to the teacher as a whole. I am extremely thankful to our Vice Chancellor, Professor V.N. Rajasekaran Pillai, who has been a source of inspiration to all of us, and he was giving us, and without his guidance and direction, we would not have achieved this success in conducting this program. I would also like to use this occasion to convey our sincere thanks to IGNOU fraternity, guests and members of the audience for gracing the occasion and making today's function a memorable and grand success. In particular, I would like to acknowledge the help and support given by the media present here for covering the function. Grateful thanks are also to all the members of the organizing committee of this function, which was headed by the Vice Chancellor himself, including 3 Pro-Vice Chancellors, conveners of the subcommittees and the members who discharged their duties assigned to them, and also the registrar and the director MPSC and their dedicated team of members who have spared no effort in making this function a grand success. I will also like to acknowledge the support and destiny extended by the Secretariat, the Vice Chancellor and the registrar in this regard. I may have forgotten a few names. My apologies to all of them. Once again, I thank you all of you for making your presence here, and kindly join for us a cup of tea as arranged outside. Thank you all of you.